There was once a boatman who made his living ferrying passengers from one side of the river to the other. Now, one day, after he'd spent some time waiting for those passengers to return, he realised they weren't coming home today, so he made his way by himself back to his own bank. But just as he reached the very centre of the river, a great and terrible flood swept down from upstream, and he, his day's takings and his little boat were swept along with the raging, broiling waters. He clung to his boat for dear life. He tried to keep control of it, but it was no good against the force of the water. He realised soon that if he didn't let go, that not just his day's takings, but he and his boat would all end up swept out to sea. So, with fear and reluctance, he let go of his boat and he swam and struggled till he reached the shore. He trudged the long way home and appeared at his own doorstep, wet and miserable. But his wife was happy to see him. He said, "No, I've lost not just the day's takings, but our livelihood, for as of now, I have no way to make a living for us all." She said to him, "A boat can be rebuilt, dear husband, but you cannot. It's a blessing to have you back in our house." A boat can be rebuilt. He was a vigorous man, and after some recovery time, he made his way to the woods. He was going to find a tree sturdy, straight and strong, ready to make his own new boat. Well, he walked and he walked and he walked and he walked far out into the woods. But there's a lot of bush there. You'd think you'd find a tree fairly quickly, but no. Every tree he came across was too narrow, too thin, too crooked, too knotted and gnarled. He didn't find a single tree that was fit for his purpose. And worse still, the day had grown long and the storm clouds came overhead. It got dark and it started raining. He started striding towards home, but soon enough he realised he was lost. Night was coming on and he had no shelter. But then he saw there a light, a little glimmer through the trees, and he made his way towards this light, and he saw right in the middle of the forest a little hut. He thought, "What have I got to lose? I'll try and find some shelter there." Well, a little old man opened the door to him, and when he explained his situation, the old man said he could come in and stay until morning. It was, after all, wet and miserable out there. And the boatman walked in and he saw that it was just the little old man and a little old woman who lived here in this hut in the middle of nowhere. There was no livestock, no children, nobody else anywhere. How did they survive out here all by themselves? And suddenly realised his stomach was rumbling, for he'd not eaten since that morning and he'd walked a very long way. And he thought, well, these people have been kind enough to give me shelter. And he asked them perhaps if they had some bread to spare, for he was very hungry. The old man simply said, "There's no food in the house. You'll eat when we get some food. In the meantime, why don't you rest?" Well, the boatman curled up with a blanket on top of him, and he tried to sleep, but his rumbling belly kept him awake. And so it was, through half-closed eyes, he saw the little old man and the little old woman bring out a small box and put it on the table. And from the box they each took a little leather cap, and they put it on their heads. And the little old man said, "Go, hat, go!" And then whoosh, he disappeared. And the little old woman did the same. "Go, hat, go!" Whoosh, and she disappeared. And the boatman was very curious, and he went to look at that little box, and sure enough, there were another couple of caps in there. So he took one, put it on his head, thinking, what have I got to lose? And he said, "Go, hat, go!" And he felt something so strange. The sound whoosh surrounded him, pulsed through him, and he landed with a bang in a completely different place. He had been instantly transported to a grand kitchen. The smell of the food filtered through his consciousness first of all, and he looked around him, and he saw at the very end of this long kitchen the little old man and the little old woman kneeling or leaning over a table and taking food off plates and gobbling it up and putting some in a little bag they carried with them. And he thought, well, that seems like a good idea. I am very, very hungry. And he started to eat. Oh, and the food in this grand kitchen, surely the kitchen of an emperor or a king. It was delicious. And here was wine. Oh, my goodness, this man had never tasted anything so fine. He drank and he ate and he ate and he drank, and he saw out of the corner of his eye the little old woman and the little old man say, "Home, hat, home," whoosh, and disappear. But he was not done yet. He ate and he drank and he drank and he ate some more until he felt very full and very drunk and very tired. No harm in just curling up over here for a little while, he thought, and he lay down in a corner and fell asleep. Well, the servants to the king, for indeed it was a king's kitchen, came in, and they saw this sleeping, drunk man in the corner, and they said, "Ha! We've got you now. You're the one who's been stealing our food and our plates. We've got you. Quick, let's take him before the king and see what punishment the king will bestow upon him." Oh! And the man's hat was knocked off in the struggle. He was taken before the king, who was furious and declared that that very moment he was to be taken out and cremated alive. He was tied to a great, strong tree. And at this point, the boatman thought to himself, look, my troubles would all have been saved if I'd only come across a tree as strong and sturdy as this one in the first place. Well, they were coming to him now with sticks and branches laying all around him. And they asked him, as was customary, if he had any last wish. "Well," said the boatman, here's the thing. I left my hat in the kitchen. It's a little leather cap. It would be great if I am to go, if I could have my hat upon my head when I go." And so his cap was fetched for him from the kitchen, put onto his head, and no sooner was it on his head than he said, "Home, hat, home!" And then whoosh, he felt the whoosh building around him and within, and plump, he found himself landed back home to his own little house by the river. But the thing was, he was still tied to the tree, and him, the rope, the tree, all of it landed there. His wife came out to see what this strange sound had been, and she untied him. And the boatman said, "Here, dear wife, I've brought a tree. We can rebuild the boat, thanks to the will of God, everything will be all right. And so it was. And that is the end of the story.